Welcome to another episode of the Business Everyday Show. I'm your host, Jonathan Wilms, and today in the studio, I have what a great, fun guest because she's like a second mom that is in the house today. Miss Jodi, you have been a part of my life for, golly, 28 years or so, and you have a niche, you have a business, you have a fun hobby hustle thing that I am so excited to talk about today. Miss Jodi, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. My name is Jodi Adams. I live in Kingston, Georgia. And my husband and I, run the Twisted Peach Farm here. And so my life revolves 100% completely around animals.
The Twisted Peach Farm. Where did we come up with this name?
Well, the peaches because of Georgia.
Yep.
But
Not the peanut farm.
but the twist, diving really quickly
Sure.
into it, is because we raise Angora goats, and Angora goats create mohair, which should come out in a beautiful long twist. And also the bucks have these beautiful big horns that twist out, and they're gorgeous. So it was kind of a play on them and also on just peaches.
Okay. So we're going to get into the goats, but I first want to say, so we are having an agricultural farming conversation that includes so many different species, animal types. Like there is a navigation here of so many different touch points that I am looking forward to exploring today. But can you tell me, this is animal heaven that I am sitting in. It's always been animal heaven. Going over to your place as a kid was always like, what new animal species am I going to encounter in your household? Like, where did the love of animals come from for you? Was that a childhood thing? Did you grow up on a farm? Like, how did that come about for you?
Well, 100% the love of animals came from my father.
Okay.
I wouldn't say we grew up on a farm, but we had 2 acres.
Mm-hmm.
And my grandfather lived next door on his acreage. And so combined, we had a lot of property. And then we were also surrounded by pasture that belonged to the local dairy farmer. So I had cows all around me, even though they weren't our cows.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was always animals in our lives. And my father was a hunter, and he taught us we respected the animals, and that the animals were used for food, and they fed our family of 6. And we also raised chickens, and our chickens were raised up from babies
Mm-hmm.
to the point where we could eat them.
Okay.
And because we lived in New York, and it was very cold there. And my father we didn't keep animals over the winter because it was too hard to house them and stuff like that. So we didn't have egg-laying chickens and things like that.
Okay.
Our chickens were meant for meat. And so we processed them as a family. But at the same time, it was always this amazing, spectacular thing that we were preparing for the baby chicks to come. And we mail ordered them. I can remember my father, we would get like this newspaper that was sort of like a penny saver that would be sent to us from the hatchery, and you could look through at all of these pictures of the different types of chickens that you could possibly buy. And so we could order, like, what are we going to get this year? And usually we got a different breed every year, and it was always exciting. And together, my dad and I would set up where we would keep them in the winter while it was, like, we probably started getting them in like in March, I would guess.
Okay.
Something like that.
That's still winter in New York.
Yep. So we would keep them in a brooder in the basement, and so when the post office would call my mom and say, your baby chicks are here, she would call my dad, and And he would get on the phone with me and tell me what to do and
We're going.
get the heater going. And he worked a minute from the post office, so he'd get them. And I was always allowed to be late for school that day.
Yes.
And yep, I could be home and I could set up the chickens with my dad, and that was like the greatest thing. It's like one of the greatest memories is my mom opening the door and going, "Wake up, the baby chicks are here." And I knew what that meant, and it was so exciting. So
you had chickens, and did you guys like expand because they say that chickens are the gateway drug to open farming and things. I don't know if that's true. I've just heard it amongst my farming friends. Is like, did you guys expand beyond chickens, or did you just stay?
We would get turkeys.
Okay.
Some years we would have turkeys. I mean, my parents allowed me to have a couple rabbits in my life. And then
Interesting.
yeah.
Foreshadowing into rabbit conversation. Okay. I did not know that.
Yep. So a couple rabbits. I was allowed to have those, and then we had dogs, and we would have a cat.
Mm-hmm.
So most of the time, any animals we had were really like production wise, it was really the chickens.
Okay.
And I loved the turkeys. I did love the turkeys. They were pretty amazing, and we usually we would still butcher, but we would sometimes my dad would keep a trio of them and keep them around a little longer, and maybe try to take them through the winter and stuff like that. But it was still pretty hard to do.
Right.
So
the love of animals came from family experience and just exposure. It meant getting off of school early, and you had these yearly seasonal new companions that would be out in the yard, like play with, and like, did that continue all through even middle school and high school, or was that just like okay?
Yeah, I mean, for as long as I remember, we always raised chickens, and in the summertime, one of my brothers ended up buying my grandfather's home next door, and so then we would buy more chickens to feed his family and our family, and so it was an event when we would butcher, because we would everybody had a job and stuff, and we knew where our food came from, and and to this day, I have chickens here, and the process, I don't eat mine, but I'm thankful for the training that I had as a kid, because I know if I have an injured one or anything, I know how to cull it, how to put it down, how to take care of that. And so
in a correct and humane way,
exactly.
not just be like, YouTube.
Exactly. Or, $100 at the vet or something like that.
Oh, goodness.
Just...
Is that the cost of
I don't know. Well, I've never taken a chicken to the vet to be put down, but let me just say.
So I have a couple of friends who grew up in the farm culture, and then their reaction to that when they became adults was like, that was so much work. I'm never going to go back and do that again. No more animals, just maybe a goldfish. You've kind of gone the same way as your growing up culture, and dare I say, maybe even further.
Yeah.
Was that natural for you to then, like, no, a decision of saying, I'm going to have animals in my life. I'm going to have exposure to this. I'm going to expose my family, my children. These are non-negotiables. This will be in my life.
I feel like it was always a non-negotiable, but it was always up to where we were living at that time. Chad and I first got married. We were in an apartment, but we got 2 bunnies, and
Really?
And so the bunnies were in the apartment, and then we brought in a cat, and once we got into a home, then we had a dog, and so it kind of progressed. And as our children, I wanted my children to be able to experience anything and everything that they could possibly experience when it came to animals. I really felt like animals were a great way for them to understand life and death, and responsibility. But I would say that and I'm sure Chad would say the same thing, that probably 98% of any animal that ever came into my house was my idea. And
We can ask him later.
and as far as it went with my children, if it was a pet that was given to one of my children, ultimately that was my responsibility. Like,
Wow.
if my child decided, you know, I don't want to take care of it, I don't want to, I'm not saying that they did,
Right.
but ultimately any animal that came into the home was my responsibility, or our responsibility as a whole. But I took ownership of that. I didn't put it on a child
Right.
to say this is your deal or nothing. And and so our kids, in their lifetime, they experienced I think each of them got their own dog at a certain point of their choosing. And we had cats, and we had guinea pigs, and we had rabbits before rabbits were what they are for us now. And we had hedgehogs, and we had sugar gliders, and we had ferrets, and
I had
we
no idea what a sugar glider was until I came over to your house at one point. I'm like, what the what?
We have had
There was a
turtles.
gecko.
There was geckos. There was a few geckos. There was tortoises, and there was and then one day we ended up rescuing a Canadian goose, gosling. And somehow that little thing came and lived at our home in a subdivision. And from there, I think we ended up with at least 4 more,
Oh
maybe
my
more,
goodness.
that over a course of time that
Yeah.
needed, they'd been abandoned by the parent, or a parent had been run over or whatever. And so somehow we ended up with Canadian geese, and we raised
Canadian
them.
refuge. I
Exactly.
know what that's like.
So, and almost all of them were raised until they were able to leave, and we
Wow.
took them to, we would take them on vacation with us, because we used to go to a lake house, and they would go with us, and we would be like, you can leave. If you want to leave, you can go. If you still want to come back home, you let me know, type of thing. And so, yes, that has been one of my favorite things we've ever done, is to be able to rehab animals. And for a little bit, I thought that's what I might do when we came here and we bought this property.
I was gonna ask, like, how did that? Was that a passion that you had that grew, or were you just like, no, there's something about animal care, doing it humanely. There's so many unfortunate circumstances, especially around animals and breeding, and we can get into
Absolutely.
that stuff where it's just horrible because it's a money grab for this. And I think even the topic of money and or business and animals can even be touchy because there's so many negative things that happen.
Right.
But there's a really healthy, responsible way to do things. And from your background of knowing, oh, this is a healthy way to treat a chicken and a bunny, and then broadening that with your children with
Yes.
all these different kinds of animals. Did you kind of have that direction already inside of you? Like, no, I want to do this maybe even as a part-time career, or was that as part of the conversation, or did that kind of just emerge when you guys got the farm?
Well, it was always I have a journal.
Okay.
I have kept several journals over time. And I look back, and at one point, one of my prayers was, for that we could have a farm. And that was like, I'd love a farm, so that I could do what we wanted to do without it being crazy insane. Trying
Right.
to do the things we were trying to do in a garage or whatever. I'm like, technically, can we have chickens here? I don't know.
There's
Maybe,
no
but
HOA. It's totally fine.
Right. It's like, I had an HOA and we had chickens, and it was like, is it okay to have these? Well, let's just not get a rooster,
We're friends.
Yeah, exactly. Shh, I'll give you eggs. You hush, I'll give
So
you eggs.
that's how it was done.
Right.
Got it. Okay.
Right. But I think it's always been something where I was like, I would dream about my days just revolving around animals, and that's what I could do.
Yeah.
That's what I could do with my life. And I wish that my kids had had the chance to grow up on a farm.
Right.
I wish we had that, but we weren't there, and it wasn't our thing. Even, economically, we weren't there. We didn't have the right income coming in from Chad's work to be able to do that. And I was a homeschool mom, so I'm like, here's hamsters. We can do this. But yeah, I mean, I think all of my children still love animals. Not except for one, not to the degree that I do, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And it's okay that I got one dog and one cat, and that's okay. Their children can now come here to our farm, and they can experience
Don't
those.
have to be scared of this critter.
Exactly.
Let's run around with the geese. Let's hang out with the sheep and all the dogs, and it's not a scary thing. I've experienced that with people where even they've had zero exposure to any sort of animal, and then a child comes into a home with a dog and they just freak out.
Absolutely.
And it's sad.
It is.
Because
it's very sad.
Oh man, it doesn't have to be scary. Now there are scary situations, but this doesn't have to be scary. And we don't have to fear the dog. We don't have to fear the cat. We don't have to fear the porcupine, or I don't know, maybe fear that one.
You might want to have a little fear about a porcupine.
There's a boundary somewhere, but it can be a normal, fun, life-giving process like you were talking about. It's like, hey, this teaches care, responsibility, life and death, and where food comes from, and all these other things. It can be a beautiful thing, and not just oh my gosh, this is so scary.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. At some point, you have to pay for all these animals. Was this a conscious decision that, hey, 32% of our home budget is going to be taking care of animals, or I'm going to get licensed as a veterinary tech so I can get my own healthcare drugs for my animals? How does the financial conversation go to be able to do these lovely things with critters? But I mean, we do live in a financial world that it's like, hey, these things cost money, to whether that be just to give them the baseline care that they need beyond food and water, but that be flea and tick meds, or those types of things. How does that conversation go for your family?
Well, the first thing you got to do is kick all your kids out.
Got
because
it.
Then
helps.
You have so much extra money after you do that. So much extra money. Let me just tell you.
Okay. So if you're listening and you got children, kick them out.
Kick them out, and then you can get the dog. So, well, let me start by backing up a little bit to when I have 4 biological children, and we have one daughter who we became guardian of when she was 16. And so our youngest is about 11 years younger than the oldest, and about 6 years younger than than his closest, and his name was Wyatt. And so at a certain point in his life, when he's about 10 years old, 11 years old, we started seeing all of the siblings were starting to move on and move out.
Yeah,
and
university happens, marriage happens, life happens.
Exactly. And it all happened because everybody was so close in age, having, especially the oldest 3, that 2 went to college and 1 got married, and it all happened incredibly quickly.
Right.
And little by little, it's just him.
You're an only child.
And he's an only child, and what can we do? And we had a good close relationship. So it's like, what could I do for Wyatt that would allow us to be able give him something to look forward to? Because to him, he was seeing everybody leaving, and it was very hard on him. Yep. And I started looking into the idea of getting him into 4-H or FFA. So, Future Farmers of America, or the 4-H group, was all about animal husbandry and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, we could get a rabbit, and we could get you into 4-H or FFA, and you could start to show it or do something like that, and so
Can I pause you for a second there?
yes.
You just said something that I still, even though I've known you guys for a long time, what does that mean to show a rabbit?
Okay, well,
we'll get to the why at 4-H,
yes.
Farmers America Future, whatever. But like, what does that even mean to show a rabbit?
Well, just like dogs are shown in dog
Mhm.
shows and stuff, and I mean, when you can see a golden retriever down the road, and then you see one that is in the show ring, and they're usually a great difference in what they look like and their body and their fur and stuff. That's because that dog has been bred to meet the standard of perfection that is
Okay.
for their breed and stuff like that. They're not just those people aren't breeding just to make puppies and sell them,
Mm-hmm.
to where they're breeding them because they are trying to raise that animal up, raise the standard up and breed to a standard so that these animals are preserved, their heritage is preserved
Okay.
and stuff, and to make them, not to degrade them.
Right. There's so much
and
mixing and
yeah, backyard, breeding and like, well,
Ugh.
this is okay, and I could get into a lot. So showing rabbits is a lot on the same way. There is a standard of perfection that is for every rabbit breed.
Okay.
Domestic rabbit in the United States. There is a standard. And so you are breeding to that standard, and then you are taking that rabbit and you're taking it to a rabbit show. You are not running it around a ring
I was gonna ask, do you have
like
little leashes and like are you
no.
like how does this do they jump through little hoops?
There's actually would be a judge on one side of a table. There will be a row of small cages
Uh-huh.
that you in front of the judge, and you're on the other side of those cages, and you take your rabbit and you put it into the cage when it's called up for its class or variety or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and then you stand back. You're to show no ownership for that rabbit. It's not about you. It's not about the way you handle it. Might be about the way you handled it ahead of time, so it's used to a judge, getting it out and touching it.
Okay.
But you are to show no ownership so that there's never any favoritism or
Mhm.
anything like that.
Right.
And then it's going to compete against its variety, against everyone in its breed. If it was to win best of breed, then it's going to go against all of the other rabbits that are that have won best of breed that day up for a best in show. So
And there are competitions all over the US.
they're all over.
That's
all over.
That's
There's
wild
one
to me.
There's one in Huntsville, Alabama next weekend, and I'm
Okay.
trying to decide if I'm going to go to it or not.
Okay.
But anyways, so that was something that I thought, maybe Wyatt, we could maybe do this.
Yeah.
And
It's with the animals. It's
Yeah.
part of the homeschooling thing.
Mhm.
We could do it together.
Yeah.
It's something to focus on.
It's not a cow in the backyard in a subdivision.
Right.
It's small.
It's small.
It's containable.
You can transport it.
We could transport it. We don't need a trailer for that. It was something. So we looked into that, and I found a breeder
Mm-hmm.
in South Carolina, and I was like, Wyatt, like, what do you think about this? We could do this. And so I went for one rabbit, came home with two, and
Yeah.
which that makes
you
sense,
can't have
right?
a breeding thing with one rabbit.
So, well, at that point, we were just looking at keeping one
Okay.
and stuff. And, I had enough money saved up that I could just get this one rabbit.
Can I ask how much it costs to get into show rabbitry?
Well, to get one rabbit at that point of this breed cost, I think, about $60
Okay.
to get one. This
Okay,
was
that doesn't break my brain. Okay,
right.
$60
Yeah,
rabbits.
exactly. So this, yeah,
More than PetSmart,
yep.
but
Well, no, actually not anymore.
okay,
Oh
I
my
haven't been in
goodness.
forever.
But yes.
Okay.
But yeah, for your mixed breed there, you're gonna pay about a 125. It's
Really?
crazy how much they are for a
Wow.
mix. But yeah, so um, we we got him, got those two, and we went to our. There was also a young man, and so this person who we got him from, her name was Desiree, and she was very sweet, very kind, and helpful. She was a Christian, so she was kind of gave us some pointers on what
Mm.
to do. We also met this young man named Christopher, who was a youth, so 19 or under 19,
Okay.
so showing, and so he was able to give us some pointers also on things to do. And one day we just went to our first show down in Perry, Georgia, and we had no idea what we were doing.
Were you competing or were you just
Yeah,
attending? Okay, so
we
you
we
just went your first
we
show
we yep,
competition.
we took one rabbit and we were going to compete and we were going to do this. And so that was our first show. And no, actually I take that back. We did take two rabbits. And I had to laugh because I'm somebody who's like, I will be 100% completely over prepared
Mm-hmm.
to do this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be so ready. And so I read everything that could be on going to a rabbit show and what that's going to look like.
Okay.
And I remember one of the things said, make sure you have extra pens because they can get lost. And I thought they meant exercise pens for your rabbits, not ballpoint pens.
Oh.
So I brought
Oh.
a pen for each of my rabbits, and I set up in this big area, and my rabbits like had all this space, and I'm looking around and I'm like, people are not putting out pens for their rabbits to exercise at the rabbit show, and they're keeping them contained, and I'm like, what did I do? I'm like, oh, a pen, a writing pen. Oh, I felt ridiculous.
Oh, the English language.
Yes,
You gotta love
gets
it.
you.
You need to add some
Gets you every
pictures to
time.
that brochure.
Could have said pencil, but so anyways, that was our first show, and I just remember our little rabbit, he got first place. And I was really excited about that. I'm like, look at what we did.
Yeah.
And so when it was done, I messaged Christopher, who was the young man who was helping us, and he's like, you should go to this other show. You should go. And he gave us we were purchased another rabbit from him,
Mm-hmm.
and she did really well at that show also. And he's like, you should go to this show, and you should go and meet so and so, and they're one of the top breeders in the U.S., but also they're here local and they're very kind. So we took the rabbits, and at that show, and Wyatt was showing in youth. So
Okay.
it wasn't me showing in open. I'm just there to help, and I am learning, sucking in any bit of knowledge that I
Right.
could.
Okay.
Wyatt at that one won best opposite of breed with one of the rabbits. So best of breed is the best rabbit of that, and we were raising Holland Lops at that time.
Okay.
They're about a 3.5-pound rabbit, and
Yeah.
so the best of breed rabbit is the very best one out of that entire breed. The best opposite of breed is, so if the best of breed is a male, is a buck, then the best opposite is
that
a
makes sense.
female.
Okay. I'm
So
tracking.
so he basically got second place,
Mm-hmm.
or the best doe that was in
Yeah.
the show, and that hooked him.
Really?
He was so excited. He couldn't believe it. We had a great time. The breeder that they talked to, that was being talked so highly of,
Mm-hmm.
his name was Gary Smith. Gary Smith, there was an auction table, raffle table.
Okay.
And he had put in a pretty nice rabbit into that raffle. And
Yeah.
so I gave Wyatt money, and he put in raffle for that. And of Christopher put in tickets for Wyatt because Christopher was there showing also.
Uh-huh.
And they wanted Wyatt to get it. And sure enough, Wyatt, I think we put in $2.25 in raffle tickets. And Wyatt went home with this amazing rabbit that
Wow.
he named it Golden Ticket. And we still have the little ticket from it. And that's just how we started. And we with Golden Ticket, we started breeding our females.
Okay.
And not every rabbit, your hope is that from those you're going to get something beautiful and showable.
Right.
Not every rabbit was showable. And so the ones that would come out that were more pet quality, we would sell them.
Got it.
And so
Okay.
the sale of those put a little bit of money back into our nest egg, which would pay for rabbit feed. It would pay for our gas to go to the next show.
Right. So we
and-
started to become a self-contained
Yes.
system.
Yeah.
Okay.
And when we started doing this, we didn't have a lot of money as a family. I mean, we weren't rolling in it.
Sure.
But my goal and what I told Chad was that if Wyatt and I do this, I want this to be self-contained. I do not want this to come out of the family budget.
Right.
And aside from maybe twice that we ever needed $20 or whatever it was, that we have self-contained contained it. So this hobby that we have has always paid for itself. When we had to invest and buy new cages, buy more cages, that came out of the sale of pets, or it came out of the sale of show rabbits.
How big of a difference is there between a show rabbit and a pet rabbit?
As far as price?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to tell you something.
Okay.
I do not want to be a pet supplier.
Okay.
But with that, I am going to sell my pets, but I am not going to make it an easy whim purchase.
You're not a Craigslist listing that
Nope.
anybody can
Nope.
say, "Hey Jodi, I want a
Yeah.
rabbit. Give me a rabbit."
I got $40. I got $20 in my pocket.
Right.
No. So my rabbits over the course of the 10 years that we have
Yeah.
done this, or more now, my rabbits at times, my pets, I will charge more for my pets than I will selling to another show breeder, because I
Interesting.
know that those rabbits, I want somebody to think about the choice that they're making
Yes.
to purchase this animal. So
It's not a whim
Right.
purchase. It's not a goldfish that
exactly.
spend $2 on. No, this will be treated well because you
Yeah.
are spending some money
Yes.
on the rabbit.
And the other thing about it is the type of rabbits we breed. We were, I think, about 4 years into it. Wyatt decided he wanted to raise the Netherland dwarfs,
Okay.
and I was raising the Holland Lops. So it was like, okay. So we brought in this other little breed, and neither breed are easy to get babies out of. I mean, you can get your litter sometimes can be one baby, or you can have 4, but it ends up being there's because they're genetically a dwarf. There's a dwarfing gene that's in there, and it can be a lethal gene if the baby gets 2 of those genes.
Oh,
And so
interesting.
you'll get what's called peanuts, and peanuts will only live a couple days.
Okay.
So you can have a litter of 4, but get 1 baby out of that litter.
Wow.
You could have a litter of 6 and get 3 babies. These are not a meat producing breed.
Wow. This is like, you're going like what you said, the image of perfection, and with that comes all of these dynamics of hoops and
Yes.
and will they survive because
Yes.
of their specific genetic mutation.
Exactly.
Okay.
So we have the amount of money that we put into them
Yeah.
versus what that comes out. This isn't a $20 pet. Not from us. And you can get other rabbits that can produce 10 babies that could be a $20 if you
Right,
want.
right.
But so right now, our pets, when we do sell them, they're $200.
Okay.
So that is, but they're raised well. They're
Mm-hmm.
fed the best feed that they can possibly be fed.
Mm-hmm.
They're fed the best hay they can possibly be fed. We spend quality money on getting the best rabbits that we can
Yeah.
get for our, for our lines and what we're doing and stuff like that. And as Wyatt was going along and in his rabbits, in his breed specifically, truly he was loved and adored at the rabbit shows because he was a good kid.
Mm-hmm.
And adults who saw him would desire to mentor him.
Like, you
And
can do it, little buddy.
yeah, and they would sell him good rabbits where they might not sell their fellow competition good rabbits.
Interesting.
They would sell Wyatt very good rabbits. And so from there, Wyatt's dwarves really took off. My Hollands were doing good also, but Wyatt's dwarves were, he was winning best in shows, and to be the best rabbit in the youth shows.
Yeah.
At these big shows, and he was going to nationals, and winning and doing well there. He never won a best of breed at a national, but he won best of group, and that rabbit went up for best of breed, and so it was in the top 6 rabbits, at the convention. So he had amazing, wonderful rabbits. But then came the age where he was turning 19, and he was aging out of youth. And also life was changing for Wyatt, and I mean, we were going to rabbit shows together all the time, and loving it and traveling. We went to Reno, we went to we went to Reno, we went to Kentucky, we were up in Massachusetts.
Man, all over.
We've gone to Pennsylvania and Colorado. We went to a lot of big shows. We saw your brother in Colorado.
Oh, that's right.
Yep, when we were out
I forgot
there.
about that one.
Yep. And so we got to play with the Wilms in Colorado because we were there, and so we had some amazing, awesome adventures because of the rabbits and what we were able to do. And Lake Tahoe, we got to go to Lake Tahoe when we were in Reno, and we went around the entire lake and stopped about 4 or 5 times, finding different types of rocks along the way, and just we had such a great time. It was the best thing because we decided, let's get a rabbit. Let's get a rabbit, and you can show
all of these
it.
adventures and memories come from one rabbit.
Yep. And from there it just became this thing that we have done. And so now we show as a team. It's not just Wyatt. It's Wyatt and Jodi Adams, because now he's in open, so he's 19 and older.
Competing with the regular
and it was intimidating. Is like, okay, so here we are. How are we going to do with our first show competing? His first show moving up, he won reserve and show. And I say he, because he was, even though we were showing as a team, he had done all the work up until that point of getting his Netherland dwarves to that point.
Right.
And so yeah, it was that was really a really neat thing to have him turn 19 in February, and at the March show he wins a reserve and show, which is second to best in show. So that's what we have done with the rabbits, and we are continuing to show. Even if he can't attend, I go.
Okay.
The rabbit community with the Netherland dwarves, I love the community. We are the American Netherland Dwarf Rabbit Club. I'm heavily involved in it. I'm their
Oh,
youth chairman.
got it.
And I have done a few different other things. I'm always part of helping out at the conventions or our nationals. I've been the breed superintendent,
Mm-hmm.
I think 3 times now.
Okay.
And this past year at convention was the largest convention that they'd ever had in history. There was over 20,000 rabbits.
Oh my
Um,
goodness.
and our
I was thinking like
rabbits,
1,000 or 2,000 rabbits. No, 20,000
yeah,
rabbits.
and our breed had the largest amount represented that would be showing, and I was the superintendent for that show, running it and
Wow.
helping the judges and get the rabbits people get the rabbits to the table and things like that. So it was a lot of work and a lot of fun.
So you go on this adventure of you start with a single rabbit and that
Yes.
turns into a rabbit lifestyle and a opportunity for Wyatt, your youngest, to come into you doing something together and go on all these adventures and be mentored and given responsibility and like did that ever did you ever consider that to be maybe even a potential career path for him or for you? Is there a career in rabbit showing, or is that
You
more of a hobbyist type thing? Or like, can you break down for me? Is that a business career, or is that more of a we do it because we love it, passion project?
Um, Majority of people, it's a project, it's a passion project. It's
Okay.
something that they truly love. But there is careers that can be around it. There's a need for rabbit judges, and you
Hmm.
have to be, you have to become a judge, and there's a lot of training that goes into it to be able to become
Got
one.
it.
And you can, um, if you're doing it, I I don't think there's enough money in it that
Mm-hmm.
you could do it alone, but it's a really good side hustle.
Yeah.
And
You get
there's
to
a
travel.
you get to
You get
travel.
to be with rabbits.
Yep,
You get to be
yep,
with rather people.
yep.
Like.
And I've we here have we have housed and hosted 4 of the top judges in the world, because they are the judges who have been sought to go
Wow.
international. So I'm love that they are my friends,
What
and
great
so
connections.
just to be able to have people who can we can be friends with, have this great community. They can also help, mentor me when I need help,
Mm-hmm.
and because now with Wyatt and his doing what he's doing in career and things like that, this is really mostly me.
Yeah.
But Wyatt still takes care of them here.
Mm.
And and he always helps out where he can and when he can.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, it is me going to rabbit shows, and I never thought that I would keep going after he couldn't, because
Okay.
I thought I would miss the camaraderie that I have with him.
Yeah.
But I think I have um, grown up, because most people didn't know my name. They knew me as Wyatt's mom. And they will
Mm.
even tell you that. I mean, that, like, that's Wyatt's mom. But they didn't know me as Jodi.
Yeah.
And then, when he aged out, and really when I started getting involved in the club and being willing to volunteer and help, then I wasn't just Wyatt's mom. I was, look at, she's willing to help.
Mm-hmm.
She's part of this. She has a passion for this.
Right.
And I do. I love it. I enjoy. It's a lot of work, and you deal with people, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's, you deal with people
I
and it's
can't even
good.
imagine in the show. I mean, the pet world is interesting, but the show, I can't even imagine the
Yeah.
types of people that you get to interact
There's
with.
there's lots of types. There's lots of types, but I have found the good ones, and I
That's
love them.
amazing to like even thinking about, your son to be able to have a skill. Like
Mhm.
it's a skill and it
Sure.
sounds a lot like even if it couldn't be this couldn't be a full-time career just because there's not that much money in this particular avenue. There's
Mhm.
one, it's a a personal responsibility skill, but also as a I think of like my friends who are soccer referees on the weekends, and they have a lot of fun with it.
Yes.
And but it does provide like a side hustle type income, but it's play.
Yes.
And to have one of those things, multiple of those things in your life, I mean, you don't lose that knowledge and those experiences, and even in his case, the reputation of like, oh, he knows what he's talking about.
Yes.
To where if at some point he wanted to jump back in at whatever level, he could do that because he carries that knowledge basis with him wherever he goes.
Absolutely.
Like
Yeah.
that's really special.
Yeah. 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 I think the rabbit hobby that and everything, it was one of the best things that we could have ever done for Wyatt.
Yeah.
It helped him to become a good human, to learn how to lose and how to win
Right.
with respect and with dignity
Mm-hmm.
and compassion for the people around who didn't win. Just to learn how to be a good human
Wow.
is a is was something that I just loved about him, because we've watched people lose
Mm-hmm.
and it's not nice.
Mm-hmm.
But I have when he knows what it feels like to lose, he also knows what it feels like to win.
Mm-hmm.
So when he has one, he's always compassionate to those who didn't
Right.
win. And there was a long time, like when he was 17, 18 here in the Southeast, he was at the top of his game, and he left everybody in the dust.
You're just like,
But
I'm gonna show up and I'm gonna win, and everybody's like, oh, Wyatt's gonna show up.
yeah, Wyatt's here. And I say that only because he was always approachable and he was always kind to the little kids who he was showing with, and he would sell them or give them good rabbits so that even if they didn't win, they felt like they could compete and they could do
Right.
well. They could have a place, and that's where I'm at. I'm like, I do win. I get best of breeds. I get best opposite. I have one best in show, without Wyatt being there and stuff like that. Um, and but it's taken a while to get there.
Mm-hmm.
And but I will always help somebody along who
Yeah.
wants to be helped, and because somebody chose to help us.
Yeah.
And we just love doing it. It's a lot of fun.
Is the are there a lot of, or there might not be any certifications or regulations around rabbits, because it is in the animal space, like
Mhm.
even to get into the shows of saying like, hey, you need to be incorporated, you need to have these insurances, you need to be able to prove that you're doing these things at your farm, or is it more just the Wild West and anybody, you get the spectrum of the person who's flying their rabbit in on his private jet, and you get the person who's like, you probably never should have rabbits.
Right. Yes, you have all that.
Okay.
You have the people showing up in their pajamas, from Walmart, and then you got the people who are there in their, in their Calvin Kleins, and
Right.
you run the gambit. There is no certification and things like that,
Mm-hmm.
but when you are traveling from state to state, there are technicalities of moving livestock, but most of the time it
Okay.
has to do with selling, and most of the time it's large livestock. But if anybody ever wanted to cause a ruckus or there was an issue,
Mm-hmm.
then they, like we show in Tennessee, and where we, if we, every state technically says you should have a health certificate,
Mm-hmm.
to move your rabbits, especially if you're selling them.
Okay.
I should say livestock, but especially in the state of Georgia, they have even said it just doesn't apply
Mm-hmm.
to the just doesn't apply to the rabbits, really, because
Yeah.
it's just there's not that we don't have a lot of issues with health
violations or disease.
bringing in diseases
Okay.
and stuff like that. So that's really not
Was there
not really an issue.
ever any suggestion from the rabbit show community be like, hey, you should be incorporated, you should, operate this as a business, you need to, put it under this headship for insurance purposes and liability, like even like as you're traveling with a very large asset.
Right.
And like how do you protect that? Like I
Right.
don't know.
Right.
You call up your car insurance, it's like, hey, I'm fine, but I got 18 little bunnies that
Yeah.
are, they were injured
Right.
and they need therapeutic care and they
And
like
sadly, every time we have a big convention, we hear of at least one car accident that had
oh
happened where
gosh.
this type of thing
How does
happens.
that all work?
Well, I mean, we run it, jumping ahead a little bit, but here on the farm now we are an LLC.
Okay.
So every sale of every animal, every purchase of every animal is documented
Yeah.
and stuff. And so they are, I have never had a loss of that
Mm-hmm.
magnitude, but I know that if our barn burned down or something like that, every single one of those rabbits would count. There would be a value on their lives.
Okay.
And same with our goats and things like that.
Was there a size that the community said, hey, once you kind of cross over this threshold or you start doing these types of shows that you should really incorporate to be protected or just take that level of responsibility?
No, not
Okay. So
necessarily.
just personal
Yeah,
discretion
it's
of just like,
personal, especially with a rabbit. It's just a personal discretion of you can, some people have a fourth bedroom and they're raising rabbits in there. Some people are raising them in their garage. Some
oh,
people
right.
have a
Yep.
barn. It just everybody's kind of you can do it differently
Mm-hmm.
and easily because they are small little animals, especially if you're getting, some of the dwarf breeds. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
there are breeds that they're 22 pounds.
Oh, that's a
And
large rabbit.
that's a large rabbit. Yeah, yeah. So you got to have the space for that. And
Wow.
yeah, that's a big bunny.
That's now I do want to ask for clarification. Bunny and rabbit.
Same thing.
Same thing?
Same thing. Yeah.
Okay.
Doesn't matter. Bunny, rabbit.
I was afraid I was being wrong the whole time.
I have a lot of people usually we just say the rabbits or whatever. The kids will say like we want to go see the bunnies and
Yeah.
so it's just one it's same thing.
Mhm.
Yeah. No difference.
Now, I'm a little foreshadowing here,
Uh-huh.
just for my business listeners. So I know that this started off as a passion project, something you do with your son, and like, but it's led into other fun
It has.
opportunities. And was there, before we say what those opportunities are, was there any thought as to, hey, rabbits could be much bigger than just this is a hobby, this is a hustle that's self-contained. Like, was there any vision towards like, hey, I love the animal agricultural space. I want to keep pushing in that direction to eventually make like, let's do some business adventures with this. Or was it always like, no, this is just the rabbit thing, and then there's life beyond that?
Yeah, I never thought beyond that.
Okay.
Yeah. Nope, I never thought beyond that.
Okay.
It was not anything that was on my radar, what we are going to talk about in a couple minutes
Okay.
or whenever you're ready.
Okay. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. Okay. So at what point, so you have, I know you have all the animals at home, you have the rabbits.
Mhm.
At what point do you start diversifying that agricultural portfolio even more on a farm? Because I know you have goats now that are
Mhm.
very specific. And there's certain, product and care that comes along with that. Like, moving from rabbits,
Yes.
what came first? Was it goats next, or was it Hollywood next?
Okay, so rabbits started in our house in Ackworth in Chad's View.
Okay.
So we had our rabbits there, so we were raising them on our bottom deck for a while, and then we moved to our garage and we
The rabbits took over.
Yeah, rabbits took over, and we created a faux wall, and so they lived in the back. And along the same time that we got, we started with the rabbits, was when Wyatt got his first dog, which was a little pug.
Okay.
And that little pug, we fell in love with her. She was a great little rabbit. She was a great little dog. And then about 6 months later, the breeder contacted us and said, I wanted to offer an opportunity for you. She said, I have a little male, and I want to keep him intact. I would like to use him for breeding, but I would really love for him to be in a pet home. So if we would give him to you, if you could give us 2 years of him being intact and we could use him from time to time for breeding. And so
Interesting.
yeah. And
So you cultivated a culture within your community and family home where it's like people know that, hey, safe environment, well treated, well taken care
Yeah.
of. And so that, just being the integrous person, family that you guys are, provided an opportunity to where a breeder with a very quality pug said, hey,
Yeah.
I want to be in partnership with you.
Yes.
That's
Absolutely.
amazing.
Yeah. So Judah, who is still with us, Judah came to us, and he was this dream dog. He was just the sweetest dog. He was so smart. He was such an amazing personality, and we loved him, and it was great. At the same time, the breeder had, before that, one of the things that caught our attention on her website when we were picking Bindi for Wyatt as his first dog was that one of her dogs had been in TV or in movies. He was their little show dog.
Yeah.
And it just happened that there's a company here in Georgia called Animal Casting Atlanta, and they're Georgia is a hotbed
It's a
for
second
film.
Hollywood.
It is.
That's
It's
crazy.
crazy how much film happens here in Georgia. And so that fam who own Animal Casting Atlanta, they contacted that breeder and said, we need a pug. Do you have one, or do you know somebody who has one who would be interested? Wow. Like a special pug that we could work with. Well, that was this dog Calvin that's one of her clients had purchased from her. And so Calvin went on to do great things. He was in Diary of a Wimpy Kid. He was in several different shows and commercials and stuff like that. But then Calvin started to get old.
Oh,
and
poor Calvin.
Yep, Calvin was aging out.
His prime years were going away.
Exactly. And so they contacted the breeder again and said, hey, Calvin's been great. He's our go-to and we love him, but we're needing another.
We need young and spry.
And she was like, let me tell you about this little guy named Judah. And she said, contact his owner. And
wow.
So they contacted us, and we were like, I was like, yeah, I actually think he could probably do really good, because he's a smart dog. He was quick to learn. And I'm like, if you showed me and told me what he needed to learn, and how to do it, I'll teach him. And so Judah was first called out to a Netflix show for a scene, and 2 days later he was on a commercial for the Trading Spaces reboot. But also at the one with the first show that he was on, I think all 3 of our dogs ended up on that, and we ended up in the background as dog walkers, and so we got paid for that. I was like, gosh. What? So here we are on
I
this.
I just didn't realize how famous I was sitting with.
I know. Now I can sign. I have pictures later. I can sign.
Yeah, we'll get stuff signed later.
From there, Judah did a few other things, and one of my favorite things was that Trading Spaces they did a wardrobe change and they gave him a new collar and a new leash for the show.
Yes.
It was just really cute. And he ate it up. He was just so good. He has been there was and a lot of things I don't know ahead of time what it's going to be. It's like, I don't get to say well, tell me what the movie is, or tell me what it is.
Right.
It's like, yep,
Confidentiality.
you show up and then you're like, "Oh, I'm on this movie."
Ah,
Okay, well, here we are. So
because the dog gets a credit at the end, right?
well, the company
The
does.
company does.
But
Okay.
but if there's filming that's happening, they want to keep things in secret.
Sure.
And so, and for a long time, while we were working, though I was always on time and I had the dog there or whatever, they still didn't know if they could completely trust me. So, to spill the beans type of thing. So,
Did you, at that point, did you have to start your own LLC for Judah for contractual NDAs or anything like that? Or is it just like, you have a dog, sign here,
yeah,
you get
it was
this
just
check?
me. It was just me.
Okay.
I got paid, and whatever, they sent me
Wow.
something for taxes at the end of the year for the little bits that we would do here
Right.
and there. And
Do dogs get royalty?
he does not get a royalty
Oh,
on those things.
shucks.
No. So, yeah.
If you're wondering, audience, if you could just have a one-hit wonder,
Yes.
no royalties.
Yes. So there was one movie that there was a movie coming out in the Kingsman trilogy or whatever it was, and it was called The Golden Circle. And that was at the same time that there was the solar eclipse that was going across the United States. And so the 20th Century Fox did this. They wanted to do this big thing on like Facebook to promote it. And so they had Judah and Bindi, the other pug, dress up as the sun and the moon. And like it was a live tracking of them. And they're like, they can do whatever they want. And they take a nap and whatever.
So it's
but
just like a top-down
it's
camera view?
top-down view.
Wow.
And every once in a while, the track would move a little bit. And it was just all promotion
I'm
for
gonna
the
have to
movie.
see if that's on YouTube. It's probably still up there.
Yeah, so it was really a cute thing. And then from there, it went into rabbits. And
so they found out, it's like, hey, this person, we can work with them.
Yes.
They're on time. They're trustworthy. They answer their phone. They're like, we can work with this person. What else do you do?
Right.
And then that's like, well, actually, I'm a state champion, national champion rabbit master. Do you need any rabbits?
Yes.
And they're like, oh yeah, we need rabbits too.
Always. There's always a need for a rabbit.
What? That just I say
Yeah.
what? I'm sorry. They Where? Maybe I don't watch enough TV. Where are all these rabbits being used? Are they commercials? Are they movies?
Sometimes movies, sometimes commercials. Sometimes it's been TV shows, Netflix shows,
Okay.
things like that. I mean, Judah was on Wonder Years. Judah was on commercial for Mr. Mister. He's been on a few different things. But the rabbits, goodness, what I'm trying to think of some of the few places that we first started, but like there was for Turner Broadcasting.
Okay.
They were doing a promotion for an upcoming event that they were going to be having in October. And so they used one of probably Wyatt's best rabbit in that. And so that was one that was in there.
Wow.
From there, we have done, there's a TV show out right now that's probably our most biggest thing that we did was Tulsa King, which Tulsa King is done by Taylor Sheridan.
Okay.
And it is also, their main character is Sylvester Stallone.
Wow.
And so my bunnies had a scene with Sylvester Stallone. And I was as close to Sylvester Stallone as I am to you. And that
Wow.
was probably the highlight of my, not life, but like to say I did this,
Yeah.
that was pretty big.
That's incredible.
And then the following week, rabbits were in a TV show. Oh, and Chad would have to tell you what the name of it is because I always forget it. But I was in, they were in a scene with John Cena.
Okay.
And so that was pretty neat. He's not
Wow.
as big as he appears, which is what everybody thinks
Just
he's as big.
FYI.
FYI, he is not that big. He's about as tall as I am.
Compared to a rabbit, he's this tall.
So we did that, and that also led to, over the summer, I was able to work with this company. I actually became an employee of them
Oh.
because they needed handlers for the or for the upcoming live action Moana that was coming
No
out. And
way.
so we were working with jungle fowl, authentic jungle fowl, which is what all chickens are derived from.
Yeah.
And so we had them on set and we were working with them every day. And that, so if you've ever seen Moana and like they had Hey, who was the crazy chicken.
Uh-huh.
These are his buddies. And so we got to work with them.
That's something I guess it's obvious now that we're having the conversation, but it feels like I never really thought about the logistics of the back end of like in every film there are animals.
Yeah.
Pretty much. And it's just like the amount of work from a like, oh, those are coming from breeders and handlers and probably the animal humane society logistics around how long they can be on set because there's all that for humans.
Absolutely.
And like they're like they can be this much time on screen and they can these breaks and this condition and like wow, you had to learn a whole new industry.
Yeah, there's always somebody on set from Animal Humane who's there who documents how long the animal went up for. And they talk to me as the breeder. How old is it? What's its name? And
do you have to keep like very strict like medical records or dietary records or anything like that to be able to participate in these
not
types
with
of
the
things?
rabbits because there isn't anything by law that they need.
Gotcha.
They don't have to have rabies and things like
Right.
that. For dogs and cats, yes.
Okay.
Then they can either contact my vet or I can bring it if they need it.
Right. Just
So
a bigger paper trail with
yeah,
that.
a little bit of a bigger one.
Has that potential world and not potential, that real world of you breaching as not only a owner of animals but even an employee of this, what was that?
Animal Casting Atlanta.
Animal Casting Atlanta. Like, has that turned into a career, a hustle, this is just a side business, this is just a I get paid to play,
Right?
or is it like, oh no, this is life changing type of career? Like, what direction has this taken you?
I think for the most part, I get paid to play.
Okay.
Because I don't need to have a full-time job.
Yeah.
I don't want to. I mean, if I was to have a full-time job, then I couldn't do what I do here at the farm.
Yeah.
But the experiences that I get to have and the stuff that I get to do, some of the directors that I've got to, brush shoulders with because I'm like, I'm working with you, and finding out stuff like that is just, it's so neat. But it's seeing the inside of that world is so much fun. I thoroughly enjoy doing it.
So cool.
But I don't have a desire to do it full time. But if that was a fun direction, like I know that there's always a certain color rabbit that majority of the time they ask for. So I make sure that I have extras of that color.
Okay.
And
very strategic.
Yeah. So
if they call, I have.
Yes. And I, sometimes I've kept other rabbits on in the rabbitry, other breeds because they need it. Like one of our we had one who was his breed was a Trianta,
Mm-hmm.
um,
I say
which
mm-hmm, like I know what you're
yeah,
talking
like
about. I have no
exactly
idea,
no.
but okay.
And I mean, and if you could imagine a red rabbit, that is their
Mm,
color. It is like a brilliant orange, like the most brilliant red-headed kid.
mm-hmm.
That's what a Trianta's color is. It's brilliant. And they were contacted by Disney and they're like, we need a red rabbit. And
Uh-huh.
they contacted uh me and they're like, yeah, I got a red rabbit. And I said, boy, do I have a red rabbit.
Yeah.
And so his name was Nacho. And so Nacho was on Guardians of the Galaxy. And
Wow.
so, yep,
Does Nacho get an honorable mention in the credits there, or is it just the head agency on that
head
one too?
agency again.
Oh,
Yeah,
that would be
yeah.
so cool.
I know,
Nacho.
Nacho. So,
Wow.
so yeah, that was Guardians of the Galaxy was probably the biggest movie thing that we've gotten to do.
Yeah.
But TV wise, Tulsa King
Okay.
working with Sylvester Stallone
Wow.
was top. I don't know that there's much that will ever for
Mm-hmm.
me as a kid growing up on Rocky and
Right, right, right,
everything.
right.
I don't think there's anything that will top that one for me.
That's incredible. Now, like for an animal, does a studio like, Fox or anything, do they ever purchase their own animals so like that they don't become a personification or a character or something like that? Or is it always through an organization and agency where like as long as it looks pretty close, we're gonna use a different rabbit every season just to
Hmm.
keep up vitality or
Right, right.
whatever.
Usually it's their dog or whatever is owned by somebody.
Okay.
And so there's a handler or a trainer or the owner who is going to come on set every time. That way they can continue doing their own thing and
Mm-hmm.
training them when they're off set and
Okay.
stuff like that.
Wow. Do you think there will ever be, or have there been offers of opportunities to do overseas things? Or is this a big US domestic type deal, or even strictly Atlanta?
Well, for the most part, what I have gotten to do, I mean, really everything has been Atlanta. The farthest I have traveled was when they did the thing for Kingsman with 20th Century Fox. It was we went to South Carolina
Okay.
for that. Judah was um some of my rabbits were in there's Apple TV M Night Shyamalan's, oh, I forget what it's called. But some of them went like to Louisiana for the filming there. So
Okay.
for the most part, yeah, so M Night Shyamalan, that was a big director, but I didn't get to go to that one. They
Oh,
took
okay.
my animals there. So that one
Interesting. So there's even I'm going to use air quotes here, like renting out
kind
your
of, yeah,
rabbits for.
yeah. So
Oh.
if there's a big travel thing and they're going and they're taking multiple animals, I
Mm-hmm.
trust them
Right.
with my rabbits and stuff like that to be able to take them.
Okay.
And so if I can't take them, they will have a handler who could, which has happened from time to time, the majority of the time I go.
Mm-hmm. Is this something that could and are you looking for the potential to continue to grow like your entry into the Hollywood professional acting space where maybe even you get more opportunities to do whatever it is that you want to do personally, but that comes out of the rabbits and the pug and all those other things, like what direction does that take you, or what do you think that this direction takes you?
I think for me, what I would look at the most is like if we brought in another animal, can that animal be used?
Okay.
That so I have a lot of thought with that. Like we brought in Old English South Down baby doll sheep last year, and like they are adorable. They're so cute.
Mm-hmm.
We can transport them easily. I'm like, do you need a baby doll? Because I got them. You know that type of
Okay,
thing.
so
So
it's at least a thought of like, hey, if we're gonna bring in more animals, could they be potentially used?
yes.
And that sounds like it is part of that mindset around it's a self-contained. This helps continue the process of
Yes.
adding more stock, paying for the stock that we
Mhm.
have, and
Right.
it just perpetuates on the joy, the hobby,
Yes.
without it having to deplete the regular household resources.
Yes.
Got it. Okay.
Gotcha.
Do you have a thought of what is next? What's the next animal?
What's the next animal? Oh, I don't. I really would love an alpaca. I'd love alpacas.
Okay.
Those I think would be really kind of cool, and we have the space.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. There's also a type of sheep called the black nose valet, and I would love them, but they are incredibly expensive.
Okay.
Incredibly expensive. That would be a lifestyle change for us to be able to
Ooh.
afford them.
Okay.
But those two animals are two that I would be very intrigued in.
Intrigued just to have, or to breed, or to sell, or like what? I'm trying to understand, because
Sure.
my I always think about the business aspect of
Yes,
it, and I'm
yes.
just like, I mean, that's what the show is, and I'm like, I mean, I the unrealistic side of me is like, man, you just get some bunnies and then you breed them, and then I'm like, wait, that's stupid, because I don't know how to do that well, and the all the backyard breeding that you were talking about, that's
Mm-hmm.
not good.
Right.
And even when I adopted like my Siberian Husky, like, let's get some reputation check on this, and
Mm-hmm.
where does this animal come from, and were they treated well, and what are there seasonal breeding, or is it just like get as many puppies out as you
Right.
can, or that type of thing. And like, so for you, um where's my question?
Well, you were asking about, why bring them in? Is it
Right,
just for that
right.
purpose?
Is it to expand the flock of fun,
Mm-hmm.
or is it to increase the bottom line, to either perpetuate the other side, like, hey, the bunnies are the loss leader, and so
Yeah.
we need to bring up the other stock to
Yes.
help compensate
Mm-hmm.
for that loss? Or is it like, no, I can bring in something that I would really enjoy, and it could self-contain itself. It
Yeah.
would self-profit
Right.
and cover a bottom line, so I could bring something new in, but it wouldn't cost anything.
Yes. So with us, like when we kind of started this at first, we're like we got three little weather goats, which are male goats that are neutered.
Okay.
That's what a weather is. So we got three little guys, and just to find out, do we like goats? And then we
Mm-hmm.
found out we like goats, and like they're fun, and we can keep them alive. That was important. And
That is the most important part.
and then from there, like the opportunity came about that we had the chance to get Angora goats, which Angora goats produce mohair. Um,
Mohair.
Mohair. So
Is that one word or a hyphen?
it's one word,
Mohair.
mohair. So in the Bible, when it talks about that the tabernacle, that the curtains were made with goat hair,
Right?
the goat hair that was used was Angora goat hair.
Oh, so it's a
Which,
Middle Eastern goat.
yes, they're from Ankara.
Ankara.
And so they that is where they originated from. So because you can't take normal goat hair, which is an inch or 2 inches long,
Right.
and actually weave that.
Yeah.
But when
It's a fluff.
they create hair that can be spun and is
Wild.
soft and crazy and beautiful. And one of my friends who's a rabbit judge is also one of the top breeders of Angoras in the country. And
So the community just continues to interweave,
100%.
and like, so once you're in, or it almost doesn't matter what you're in is, as long as you have a passion for it.
Yeah.
And
people like you.
Okay. Key component: people have to like you, or you have to be likable.
Right, exactly.
Got it. There is a way to network.
Yes.
Beyond, like, hey, I might start with rabbits, but my end goal is goats. But I can handle rabbits today.
So we had this property, and we were like, there's not very many Angora goat breeders here, and we thought we could have a niche with that. And for the most part, we do. I will say it has not been very easy for us to figure out how to market them. and so that has been
Market the flock to
even
sell, or
the
even the just
flock
the
to
okay.
and or the fiber itself, and
Oh,
but part of that has also just been life has gotten in the way in a lot
yeah.
of times, and so like I can market rabbits, but finding this market for that's actually for 2025. It is my goal.
Hmm.
I'm going to figure out how to be a better marketer of the Angora goats, the fiber, because it is one of the best fibers there is, and the quality of the goats that we have because of the stock that we got is amazing. And so the price for their fleeces
Mm-hmm.
can be high and it can be good. You just have to find it. And people
Right.
have to understand who I am.
Hmm.
They know who my mentor is, but they have to understand who I am and that I have quality product.
Right.
Um,
Is there a manufacturer out there that makes like stockings, mittens, or hats or something
well,
with Angora, or
in
is it just non-popularized right
that
now?
used to be really big until the polyester synthetic world came to be in
Oh,
the 70s and
gotcha.
80s, and that's when the mohair took a major decline. But Texas is the largest, has the population of Angora goats,
Come on, Texas.
second only to South Africa.
Wild.
So, yeah, so South Africa has the most, and Texas is second, and they have very much kind of the same type of climate and stuff like that. So they prosper really well. They
Right.
thrive there really well, as long as they don't get an ice storm. Then they got
Huh.
problems. But anyways, I mean, I can sell in bulk if I wanted to send my stuff to Texas or um things, but so that has been the one thing. It's like, how do we find a way to help pay for food
Sure.
and anything like that. We brought in the Southdown baby dolls because they are um and I should say we do show the Angora goats.
Oh,
So we
okay.
are showing them, so we are breeding them to a standard,
Right.
and we aren't doing it just to pop populate
Mm-hmm.
and produce um, babies that are unwanted or
Mm-hmm.
anything like that. We are doing it to a standard so that we can show them, create a better quality mohair, um, and a nice, solid, healthy goat.
Right.
That is our goal.
Okay.
And so we're doing that. We brought in the Southdown baby dolls because they are a very wanted pet in the livestock community.
Really?
They're adorable. They're as babies, they're adorable, and babies can bring a higher price. So we were like, well, this is something that we could bring in, and then
Oh,
eventually
right,
the
right.
sale of babies could help the farm.
Mm-hmm.
I can also use their fleeces to go in. I can mix their fleece and their fiber with
The mohair.
the mohair and or work them separately. So there is a purpose, which leads us to why would I want an alpaca? Alpaca fiber is
I wasn't gonna question that one. I was
amazing.
just like, they're cool.
Alpaca fiber is amazing fiber. Super soft.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy little animals, and they're not as big as llamas. They're a little bit more easy to handle and stuff, and so they could come into the fiber and be useful.
Okay. So you got like two or three strategies going on here.
Yes.
One is like bring in a species, an animal that I enjoy, I think are wonderful, cool, cute, whatever, but they are wanted, they're
Mhm.
profitable, they are or at least self-sufficient
Mhm.
in that way. They
Yeah.
could carry the load of the farm.
Yes.
And then you have the mohair fleece that you're like, hey, I'm gonna explore the market for that. And like it sounds like they all kind of intersect and intertwine when it even comes like, hey, I'm gonna tell my Atlanta, production agency that hey, I also have these things.
Mhm.
So if you want them on this thing, and like, do you have you experienced that cross of just like, oh, this part touches this part and this part touches this part, and it's just like all intermingled into one big thing.
That is really my goal of the property.
Okay.
Is that everything is cohesive.
Yeah.
There is a purpose for everything in some way. Um, and the one thing that we haven't talked about is that in order to keep animals here, livestock here, and keep them safe, you need guardians.
Mm.
And so we have livestock guardian dogs. We have Italian Maremma sheepdogs,
Okay.
which are amazing.
They're beautiful.
Amazing. You've met one, and they're amazing dogs. And we brought in a female, and then we loved her so much, and we loved the instinct that she had, and her purpose. And so we sought out a male and to be her companion,
Mm-hmm.
to work, because one should never work alone when it comes to threats of coyotes and things like that. They should never be alone,
Right.
and always working as a team. And we fell in love with the breed, and we were like, there is a need for good livestock guardian dogs,
Mm-hmm.
um, in farms, in
Mm-hmm.
the communities, and these dogs are bred to take care of their goats, take care of their humans, take care of their chickens, or take care of their lambs, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
They will give their life for those. They can do more than a human can, because they are willing to stay up all night and lay outside that barn
Right.
and watch over anything, and
Hmm.
for anything that comes. So we have started raising the Italian Maremmas, and
Wow.
it is, Chad and I would both say it's been our absolute favorite thing that we have done here, because we're breeding for a purpose. And they are, um, we have our second litter,
Mm-hmm.
and our first litter all went to farms, into where they were needed, where they are
Wonderful.
working in there, and we are very, very, very strict about where they're going to go.
Right.
Um, they're not going to go into a house as somebody's pet. Uh, they need, because they are meant for a purpose,
Mm-hmm.
and their purpose, they, in the wrong hands, they could end up being a bad dog.
Right.
So it's, we want to see them
They
thrive.
need employment.
Yes, they need employment. They need to work. There are working dogs, and these guys really need to work.
Hmm.
And so having them has been for us, and it's kind of been my goal, that I would like to see the sale of one litter a year, that it cover all of our feed,
Wow.
if not more than that. And it
Right.
really should, and really would.
Okay.
So it would cover the feed bill for the farm. So
Mm-hmm.
that is my goal. But at the same, it's a goal monetarily,
Sure.
but also to see these dogs go and thrive.
Right.
And for people who are truly looking for dogs that know how to work and know how to care for their most prized possessions.
Mm-hmm.
And we had somebody contact us from New Jersey. They're like, we are losing lambs to bobcats.
Wow.
We need something. We need something here. And all it takes is a dog sitting outside outside a barn barking, to make a bobcat say, I'll go someplace else.
Well, and it's such a cool thing that you have in this situation. You have an individual from New Jersey saying, "Hey, I have this problem." You not only have a solution, but you also have the empathy, because you have the goats yourself, and you have the knowledge to be like, "Hey, this is my experience." You're not just dealing with the dog; you
Yes.
have the farm experience as well, and be like, "Hey, this has worked for me. This is my environment. This is like," so that comes with itself this trust of experience. And have you seen where you've had touch points in all these other arenas really help you in the conversation in, let's say, in the dog endeavor? Like, you have you have a reputation with agriculture, and does that carry over into all the different areas? Like, if
I think
someone
so.
looks you up and be like, hey, does she know what she's talking about? Is she a reputable source?
Hmm.
Like that, I would assume carries with you into all the different industries, even if they're not directly tied together.
I think so, and I think just um I think even if they don't know me
Mm-hmm.
well, I have somebody as a source that I can say, here, talk to
Right.
them.
Really big
Talk to
network.
them. Yeah, I've got a network. Talk to them, and if you know, ask them your opinion, and if it's a good opinion and you're happy with it, then come back to me.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to just take my word for it. Hope that I want my
Yeah.
reputation to
Sure.
follow me, and I hope and pray that that is what happens with our animals, and so yeah.
So for you, if you were going to give suggestion advice, if someone wanted to get, let's say, into the Hollywood space, do you have any pathways, thoughts in regards to sage advice wise? You've walked this path now for a little while
Mhm.
of like, hey, I want to do this thing it out of enjoyment, but somewhat profitable, but I want to do it, for the care of the animal. There's so many aspects to consider. Are there things that you've learned along in your process of kind of by not falling into it, but being given an opportunity that was not sought out? Have you learned different things of saying, hey, I would definitely do this. I definitely would contact my local agency. I definitely would not try it to do it by myself? Or do you have any thoughts of wisdom of how someone could do that?
Yeah, I mean, most of the time, especially if it's anything big,
Mm-hmm.
like that you're dealing with, anything off of Netflix or anything off of Disney or Marvel, any of that stuff, they are going to use an agency.
Okay.
So they're not usually going to go out and find.
They're not scrolling
Yeah.
Facebook looking for a cool
Yes.
Instagram photo.
But
Yeah.
sometime, so finding, I'm sure you could look up on Facebook, wherever you are, animal acting agencies and stuff like that, and go through an agency.
Hmm.
And, and dogs and cats and things like that, a lot of times it's just getting them to do a natural thing to um a sound. Like
Oh,
just
like
something that is already inherent that they're doing. And so if you like, Judah will carry a dog bowl around with him all day long. And I have said this dog needs to be in a film or something for a dog that needs to carry a bowl.
right.
Like dog that's hungry. Like I got the dog because he will pick up a
At
bowl.
least a commercial for dog
Yeah,
food. He's going.
exactly. But what Judah doesn't have is a clicker train to pick up a bowl,
Mm.
type of thing. So if he really needed that, then I guess what I'm saying is, if you feel like you have an animal that, like, this is something, work on that one thing that's like, this is really good. He could be used for this, or
There's so much opportunity that there will
yeah,
be a need for that
and
thing.
yeah, and then just kind of build off of that, build on his basic commands and stuff like that. Seek out on probably Facebook and look for agencies that are available. And then eventually, I mean, I've done this now. We got Judah. I think we got him in 2015. And so I think in
Okay.
2016 we started doing things with Judah.
Wow.
And so for me, a really cool thing that happened was that um since I've done this for a little bit, I was actually contacted by a different agency through Disney who said, "We heard you have rabbits."
No way.
And so
You are being sought out
I
now.
I did. I was, and I'm like, "Ah!" And so one of my rabbits was on a Disney Hulu show. And so I did that last
Wow.
week with him. And that will actually probably be the most screen time one of my rabbits has had,
Okay.
is this scene. It's
Wow.
gonna be pretty cool.
That's
So yeah.
amazing.
And but yeah.
Okay. So find your local agency, get connected with them. If you see a trait in your animal,
Mhm.
I guess not the right phrase is exploit it, but train it,
Yeah.
continue to pursue it, and then it will align
Mhm.
with somebody's need at
Yeah.
some point.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. Other than that, I don't know. I mean, it just kind of fell in my lap, and I said I'll take it, and just, but I was willing, and
Yeah.
you don't make a ton of money, but you have a lot of fun.
Mhm.
And sometimes you get more, and I don't know. I mean, it's
Mhm.
always, in the end, I'm always pleased. I
Yeah.
don't feel like I ever got, my time was wasted. Definitely never feel that.
Mhm.
And I enjoy my time.
Have you had to get an agent yourself to make sure that your pet is well represented to the agency? Like, would that be legal or tax or corporate? Like, have you had to have representation as well to the Hollywood representative?
No, because that's what like Animal Casting Atlanta
Okay,
does.
so they
That
are your advocate
Yeah,
in that process.
100%. They're
Okay,
my advocate and everything.
gotcha.
And I'm always uh, have loved working with them. They've been great.
That's
So,
awesome. You've talked about you were brought on board with them as an employee, even for part time.
mhm.
Are there more of those kinds of opportunities that show up that you just have like, you know what, doesn't fit my lifestyle, not my thing, but if I wanted to, there's so much more opportunity in that. I forget the term that you said. What that actually was
Oh,
called.
a handler?
Handler.
Yeah.
Handler.
Sometimes, I mean, I've let them know, like, hey, if you have a big shoot, you need other people on hand to pass horses around or whatever. I'll be available if you need it.
Yeah.
And so, um, so far, when I mentioned that at the last thing that we did, that's how this opportunity came out for, um working for them with Disney.
Okay.
And that was a blast. And I'm like, I'll do it. I'll handle a chicken all day long. It works for me. And
So on average, if there's a rabbit in a Disney show, what is the likelihood percentage that it's one of your rabbits?
if it's filmed in Georgia, then you got a pretty high percentage that
Wha
it
okay.
could be
Look at the
mine.
credits, see if it
Yeah.
was filmed in
Yeah.
Georgia. You got a Jodi Rabbit.
There was the movie Doctor Sleep, uh, which was like a scary movie. I think it's Stephen King. One of my rabbits was in that. I was not on set for that one, but one of my rabbits was in that. Um, yeah, there's been a
Oh,
few.
I have a question then. Um, where does business fun side hustle adventures with like exploring things with the rabbits and personal faith intersect? Like, do you know where like what your rabbits are going to be used for? And have you ever had that conflict of saying, "Hey, no, this is the my personal belief system. This is what I accept as true, and what
Hmm.
I want to be a part of, and what I don't want to be a part of, or association." And like, are you informed prior to coming on to set or given job, like the context of what's going on, or is all that hush hush you don't know, just show up and then be like, ah,
For the most part, I know everything that the animal is going to do.
okay,
Because they will want to ask me, because one rabbit was in supposed to be like in a magic show, and he was going to come out of a hat.
okay,
So, and they wanted a certain color, and I'm like, I have three in that color, three different breeds.
mm-hmm,
And so I showed them different ways, like, if it's this rabbit, this is how you're going to get it out of the hat. If it's this rabbit, that you're going to get it out this way, because you're
mm-hmm,
not going to hold anybody by ears, type of thing.
right,
But for the most part, like I had said, I don't get to know ahead of time
right,
what the movie is and things like that. Sometimes I never even see at the TV show that they end up being in,
right,
type of thing. But there's never been anything on set that, I've been uncomfortable with,
mm-hmm,
that I was like, yeah, no, not going to do this.
mm-hmm,
But it also, at that point, I'm making a choice too, that if I was to back out, the company would
right,
be in a lot of trouble.
and they're probably never gonna call you back,
Not going to call me back, type of thing, but it's an animal. My name isn't attached to it.
right,
I have to, it's not going to be rabbit in the really naughty scene. That was Jodi
That was
Adams.
Jodi's rabbit.
I mean, it's not gonna say it.
If someone comes back to you and says that, you're like, why are you watching that?
Right.
Like-
Exactly. There you go. There you go. So
it's an interesting thing for me because I've talked to a couple people, not on the show, but like who, work in the whether it be brewery industry or something like that. And it's like, okay, how do you, as a faith-based person, I'm a faith-based person, an evangelical Christian, and I go like, how do you, knowing that your product is a good product, it's an enjoyable product, and some people will abuse it.
Sure.
How do you deal with that?
Right.
And I guess the same could be said for any product or any service, whether I build a computer or whether I build this product or create this thing, it always could be malused outside of its original creation intention.
Well, and also, I mean, on the set, there can be 200 people there on a set.
Right.
How many of those people are Christians?
Right.
There are people who are Christians, and this is their lifestyle, and this is their job.
Yep.
And it's like they are not, they're not in that scene, they're not doing whatever, but they have a job.
Yep. I'm a lighting guy. I connect
I'm
wires
lighting.
guy.
Exactly. So are you going to, I mean, I guess it's going to be a personal, if you feel convicted,
Sure.
then that's you, then 100%. But anything that I have done and been a part of, I haven't felt convicted.
Yeah.
But I felt like I've come with an obligation. Like I wasn't on the Dr. Sleep one, which that one a little scary, a little crazy, whatever. And I was not on the M. Night Shyamalan one. Two amazing directors.
Yeah.
And they're in there. But do some people want to watch M. Night Shyamalan shows? No. Do some people will they watch a Stephen King movie? No. But, my rabbit was in a birthday party scene. So I'm like, I'm okay with that. The Twisted Peach Farm wasn't listed.
It wasn't tainted.
So, yes. And, but it's also part of, you walk in with an agreement that I don't know what this movie is. There's a lot of times I have walked on and I look down and I see the piece of paper and go, oh, that's what this is. I did not know when I went on Trading Spaces. I was on Trading Spaces with Judah. I did not know.
Yeah. But
it's like, okay, here we are.
I'm here to do a job. We're doing it anyway.
Yep. Yeah,
we're pushing forward.
Yep.
Oh, this is exciting. I'm gonna do it.
Yep. Yep. Exactly. Oh, John Cena. Okay. Well,
sweet.
Okay. Here we are.
Tall. Okay.
Yeah, you're kind of little.
It's really. I think this is a testament to anybody who's interested in a hobby or has an extreme passion for something. Is that like you have really no idea what it could turn into and where it could lead you. I mean, this started with you growing up on a farm and chickens and seasonal growth, and that turned into like, man, I want my children to grow up with this sense of responsibility but fun and exploration and that then developed into, man, I really want to connect with my son, and then that just the network and the opportunities continue to go. And what's I think really beautiful in your story is that it was done thoughtfully, it was done purposefully, from many different angles. It wasn't just like, this would be fun no matter the costs or whatever. Like you still have to live. We're not going to do this irresponsibly. You have other things other goals in life. But if we can craft this in a way with thought and intention, we can explore all of the animal fun that we possibly might want to do and do it where it's self-sufficient, self-contained, and who knows where it goes.
Yeah.
And somehow it's led you through Hollywood, and it's led you through very niche goats and maybe alpaca, and maybe you got these baby doll goats, and you got these really amazing security dogs, and like all the different twists and turns of how it all could have come together. But it's starting with just like, I love this and I know I'm gonna have this in my life.
Yeah.
That's beautiful to me. That's the hope, I think, for everyone in
Mm-hmm.
some sort of business or side hustle of like you have the opportunity to do what you enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's awesome. What an exciting start to finish. And even on the side, I know we've talked about like, let's keep this in mind that this is a farm. And so all of the farm adventures that you guys have seen and you've mentioned, you had this interesting scenario, and then you talk about, births and seasons and stories this and stories that. And, there's, I'm sure, a lot of joy with farm life. And there's probably also a lot of sadness with farm life and the coming and the going, and like what an expansive adventure. But you being able to touch rabbits and goats and all these exotic pets, and we didn't even get to the fish, and I know there are fish in there, and they're like, um how much of a wild adventure it has been for you with pets. And thank you for coming on the show and telling us like what is it actually like to be in the breeding space and doing it thoughtfully and doing it well and with integrity, and the rabbit show space that, I mean, I've known about now because we've been friends for so long. But like, I remember when my parents were like, yeah, and Jodi's doing this and going over here for rabbits. And I'm thinking as a kid, I'm like, rabbits? Rabbits? What's with the rabbits? But it being a culture and a network and a huge thing. Stadiums are filled with people who love rabbits, and that's just awesome. So I am thrilled to see how you have created not a business per se, but a side hustle that is completely based upon your interests, and it is self-contained and self-financed, and it's not this huge financial suck on this area and that area. Like, it's able to be um funded internally. And like, to me, that's like, man, if I can just have a passion project that is self-funded, it doesn't require all my time, effort, and money, then I've made it.
Yeah.
So where can people find you if they want to be a part of the Twisted Peach Farm? Did I say that right?
Mm-hmm. You
Twisted
did.
Peach Farm, and get in contact with you, where you have the best mohair, where you have the best baby doll goats, where you have the most incredible rabbits, where you have the most well-trained pug dogs, and who knows what else you have in this household. I mean, I got a cat sitting right next to me. Like, we got all these different beautiful animals that are both bred and cultivated and in shows and movies and famous and not accredited, but that's okay. Like, where can people find you if they want to get connected?
The easiest place to find us is going to be on Facebook.
Okay.
I do definitely try to keep a very active Facebook page that shows 80% of the good and maybe 2% of the
I
bad,
got it.
just so people can see. But it's the Twisted Peach Mohair Farm.
Twisted Peach Mohair Farm.
Yeah,
Find
so
them on Facebook.
Yep. And the rabbitry is the Peachy Buns rabbitry. You can find, I do have a website, but I don't really use it that much aside from whenever we're going to have pets available.
Gotcha.
Most of the time, if I do anything or try to do any self-promoting, I do it carefully on Facebook through the Twisted Peach.
Amazing.
And but yeah, you can go on. You can see our newest litter of puppies.
Follow the farm.
You can see all the baby goats and the baby
you guys
dolls.
do tours and fun day for homeschool groups or anything? Like, is that next?
I would love to be able to do it if we could sometime, if we could find, but I also know that's a whole lot of insurance. So
Ooh, yeah,
that's
insurance and who knows what else.
There's a lot that goes into that. So yeah. But
well, wonderful. Thank you, Miss Jodi, for coming on the show, for sharing with us your start, your story, how you've gotten into these amazing animal industries, and all the amazing ventures that has included. Thank you for coming on the show today.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.